My next guest is an undefeated featherweight contender, and he fights out of Vasteras, Sweden. He will be making his highly anticipated Cage Warriors debut at Cage Warriors 160 in Manchester, England, when he fights Luke Riley. He joins me right now. His name's Alexander Loof. Alexander, welcome, sir. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank you, man.
Well,
Same for me, man.
first and foremost, I want to talk about your city. It is one of the most important cities in MMA. I was hoping you can kind of maybe explain the context of what it is I'm talking about when I say that.
Yeah, I think like if you watch the fighting scene in Sweden, it's I believe like All Star has like the most professional fighters and the biggest gym in Sweden. You know, many people around the world come to All Stars and visit them and have their camps there and stuff. But you know, Västerås is a is it is like the fifth biggest city in Sweden, but it's still like very. It's kind of when you look at when you look on it from a like outside perspective, it's like it's kind of smaller city. Uh, yeah, it's just like kind of smaller city. You know, you feel like when you're, it's a country city kind of. So it's we have not as much fighters and stuff, but you know, I think it's all credit to our coach Jürgen Hamberg, and then of course Slatko, Davor, and those guys who have the FCR. But you know, I think Vasteras Fight Club, the club I train at with Tobias Harila, for example, we're one of the smaller clubs in Sweden, but we're still like in the top in the ranking. So something we do right, of course, and that I think is only because of Jürgen Hamberg, you know, our coach.
When I think about your city, and then when I think about Fight Club Rush, that's like right there as well. You have got to be seeing like all kinds of people from all over Scandinavia kind of come through. Are there a few people that are fighting in Fight Club Rush, like young Swedish fighters or young Scandinavian fighters that you look at and you're like, man, he or she, they might be a great fighter one day?
Yeah, of course we have ton of fighters. I think we have like if we only look at fighters who almost only fought in FCR, I think we have like, for example, we have the girl who did her debut today, Josefin Modig. I think she will be a prospect for the girls. Uh, just a year or two, if she will be active, and then I believe also like Vasi, he went to Finland last week or something and did really good fight against a top prospect from Norway. Uh, I don't know, it's kind of many, but it's still like I think it's maybe 4 or 6 guys that can really compete like outside of Sweden as well. I think Sweden, if you look at some guys who went to UFC from Sweden, it's good guys, of course, but the guys who are coming up right now, it's I think it's like different level from the past guys way back. You know, the MMA had just like leveled up so much in Sweden lately.
You train at a Vasteras Fight Club, and I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about what it's like to train there and what the culture of your gym is like.
I think like the club I'm in, Vasteras Fight Club, we have like a kind of special rumor or like style of fighting. It's like if you look at on every other gym, it's like you, for example, you first like when you come to the gym, a regular gym is you kind of first start grappling and then you kind of go over to striking and yeah, you know the grappling part is really important, but in our club it's totally different. You know, it's like our uh, coach Jürgen, he always says like people do not want to see grappling, they want to see striking, they want it to be entertaining, you need to knock people out, you need to have these kind of stand-up fights to come quicker to the higher level. Because like when you just look at contender series, you know, you see Dana, he only takes in like the people who knocks people out or something. So we kind of have that mentality, we stand and bang with anyone, uh, doesn't matter who. It was like when I faced Samuel Bark, if you look at his like resume and stuff, he has a lot of more like stand-up fights and routine than me. So it was like I maybe should take him down, but if I want to do it entertaining and show I really am, I need to like challenge myself. And it's kind of the mentality Jürgen has. It's like you go in, you try to really beat up the person, you need to do the damage. And yeah, we even have a sign in Fight Club, that a really big sign. It's had been kind of famous in Sweden. It was one time when Tobias Harila was in Serbia, I think, and he fought a wrestler. Tobias, he tried to take down Tobias. Tobias like took his back and then put hooks in, to get a rear naked choke. And then the coach says like, no fucking submissions, take it out and start punching. So he took out the hooks and then just started punching. And that sign is now in our club, like a big sign, like no fucking submissions on the wall. So if you come in, you don't do submissions.
That's absolutely hilarious. And I did. So speaking of, like, when I'm thinking about just, okay, that makes so much sense, especially when I think about Tobias's like fighting style, like that makes so much sense to me with all that context that you said. So for a typical training day, like, do you guys spar hard every day? Is that kind of how it's like in your gym?
I don't know if like I have heard when people come and visit, some people is saying we spar hard, and some people will say we spar good. It's kind of depends who you spar. It's like every club you go to. Like if I go to All Stars, I know probably a few guys will spar with me really hard, and a few guys we just technically touch sparring. So I think it's just like who you spar with.
When I think about Tobias, and I want to talk about him for a little bit, I don't really think of him as like a brawler type per se. He's actually very technical. He doesn't always show it, but there are a lot of layers to his game, and he's actually quite a technical fighter. He is a very intelligent fighter as well. And if you come at him thinking that you're going to be able to just out grapple him and take this fight to the ground, you might be very surprised. His takedown defense is great, especially when he's off the cage. He can frame off very, very well. I think there are a lot of things about him that make him a special fighter. But I'd like for you to say, when you know him better than anybody else, what makes him such a great fighter in your eyes?
I think it's just like the mentality of Tobias is so good. It's when he have a fight schedule, he signed that contract. You can really like see in his eyes. He's so fired up. He really wants to kill the person that he goes in the cage with. So I think it's like the mentality of Tobias. He's really good. Like if I compare my training to his training, it's like he's really good at like save his energy in somehow. Like he's always like 100% in like the late night sparrings and stuff. And me myself, I'm pushing really, really, really hard with like the alone training. Let's say it's like I do so much hard work, like besides the fighting stuff as well, so I can come a bit tired and stuff. And then it's just kind of two different types of training, but we still like train the same in the gym. But Tobias is really good at like saving the energy and be like 200% at the fight when the fight night is going to happen.
Cage Warriors 160, Manchester, England. You and Tobias are going to be on the same card. You're making your Cage Warriors debut on the same card as him. You guys are like the two evil Swedish guys showing up to ruin the party. That's kind of funny in a way, but also like when you found out that you and Tobias were going to be on the same card, I'm sure that made you pretty happy.
Yeah, of course. I was supposed to fight in Cage Warriors April, and then that fight was canceled, and then we just rescheduled it. But now when me and Tobias fight at the same time is so good, because we kind of we have a camp together now. It's not like he has a camp now for 8 weeks, and then when he's done, I have a camp. It's like now we can really train together, like in the same pace all the time. So it would be really fun to go to England together and show England what Sweden is really all about.
Well, over the years, I think he's done wonders to kind of work that crowd over, and he's earned a lot of English fans over there over the years. And then for him in particular, he's fighting a German guy. I don't think they're going to care too much about that. I think he'll have a lot of the crowd on his side. I can't say the same for you, my friend. You're fighting like one of the most popular English prospects in Luke Riley. I would expect people would be more inclined to pour a beer over your head than applaud you for walking out to the cage. But you fought on the road before. You fought in Finland before. And you've also fought high level competition. You fought Samuel Bark before. You beat him. The idea of going to England and fighting Luke Riley, one of their most popular fighters, that's got to like fire you up.
Yeah, of course. You guys maybe call it soccer, we call it football. But I go on so much football, in my life. That like my favorite hobby outside of fighting. So I have a favorite team I go to. It's called Hammarby. So I've been on so many matches. And then when you are at these kind of events, it's so much heat from them, and it's kind of trash talk, blah blah blah. So I kind of used to, and I think it's funny, with if they will talk trash, and throw stuff. I don't know what will happen. I get like fired up. It's the same like if I compare my fights before, when I fought like in the hometown in Västerås or like in Sweden, where when I know I will have like the supporters on my side, I do good, but I know I do much better when like the audience is against me. It's like you're not coming there to. I always come to show all my best. But it's still like you get kind of more fired up when people booing or something like that. You just want to silence the audience, in a kind of way, and just take over completely.
You have been fighting for a number of years throughout Sweden, and you've had a very impressive resume up to this point, and you're still a very young guy. What made what made it to where you said yes to Ian Dean when they asked you to sign with Cage Warriors? Like when you and your coaches looked at this opportunity and thought about it, just the idea of signing with Cage Warriors in general, what was it that made you say yes?
No, I just really, I do not care like who I face or anything. I think I kind of show that. Like for example, when I fought Bark, I was 3-0. He was 3-0, and all the Thai fights he had before, I think I was the underdog that fight. Still won. I don't care. Like everybody always saying like, "Oh, you're undefeated," blah blah blah. I really don't think about the undefeated part. It's just like I've lost before when I was an amateur. It sucks, but I know also it's making me so much better if I lose. So I don't think I have something to lose. When I go in there and face the good guys, especially the good guys. I feel like when you trying to build a record or something, people build records and stuff. I don't think you don't learn as much. It's like, for example, the Bark fight. I think I learned so much about myself and about what I can do like later in the future and what I'm capable of. So I think if you take those fights, you will improve. Either you lose or you win, you will improve anyway. So I like these kind of fights. Like when the Cage Warriors reached out, they asked if I wanted to fight a 5-0 guy or a 8-0 guy, and I just was a Italian guy. I don't know his name, but it's still what I will look both up, and I so Riley, and I thought Riley had like he was better than the other guy. I felt like he was so much better than the other guy if I look like striking wise and stuff. So I was like, I picked that guy, and now he's 7-0. So even better for me. That's he's 7-0 and not 5-0 now. So I just wanna beat the best guys in Cage Warriors and in every organization. I don't care like if I go to KSW or Cage Warriors or anything. I just want to face good guys where I know I will improve. Either way, I lose or win. I don't care. It's just like I go in and do my best and try to smash whoever in front of me.
Well, that's certainly admirable. Luke Riley, of course, he's an undefeated top English prospect. And I'd like for you to give me your take on this guy. Why do people struggle so much against him, and why is this guy undefeated?
I think many struggles with him in the way that they give him too much respect from this like the first bell goes. I feel like a few fighters is like they kind of shield up directly. You know, they feel like, oh, his striking is so good, I need to be prepared for anything. So they kind of give him too much respect from the beginning, I think. And then I think like if you give him too much to work with and anything, it's he will just improve and improve and improve in the fight. So I think, of course he's really really good. He's a good boxer, good striking. Maybe not the best grappler, but it's what it is. You know, I want to strike with Riley. I want to try it myself. You know, so I think people like respect him too much. You know,
You're taking this fight because you look at it and you've talked about it with Tobias, you've talked about it with your coaches. You're like, I'm going to go to England. I'm going to fucking beat this guy. Like, you don't have to say it, but listen, you're not taking this fight to go over there to lose to this kid. Like, you're going in there because in your mind, you see a path to victory. And I'm not going to ask you about what it is too much because I want to find out when I watch this fight at the end of the month. But for you, when you look at like your skills broadly, what makes is do you feel like you have an advantage over him in one particular area of MMA?
I think it's. I believe I have better grappling than him, but still, like I don't know if I will use it or not. Like I said, I really want to try out myself in the striking part with him, like I did with Bark. You know, so if it happens, it happens. But I'm prepared to do anything to win, of course. But I want to try to strike with him. But I think he has like in the striking part, he's really good at the basics. You know, really good at the basics. So good combinations, kind of tight combinations, everything. Uh, if you look at me, I'm good also at that, but I think he has a bit of an edge in that one if I compare us two. But I think I'm much more trickier than I come with this weird stuff sometimes, you know. Like I like to think about like every person who said, "Oh, I have faced a hard puncher and blah blah blah." I know what it is, but they never faced it. In my mind, it's like they never faced a guy with scoliosis. So, so it's like I have an edge already, you know.
I looked at this, and number one, I gave you a lot of respect and a lot of credit for taking this fight because a lot of people wouldn't have. A lot of people in your position would have said, I'm going to put on the yellow gloves for the first time, and I want to fight a bum. I want to get an easy fight in. And you're not doing that. You're taking the absolute opposite path, and you're saying right out the gate, give me your toughest freaking guy. I want to fight him. I think that's commendable, and that's not easy to do when you're fighting him in his backyard. People might say it's not a big deal, but it is a very big deal. You get a win over this kid, that's going to put you on the map, and seemingly you could take your pick out of anybody in the weight class. I'm not going to ask you who it is that you would want to fight. Let's find out on September 29th. But what would a win over Riley in general just kind of mean for you at this point in your career?
It would mean, of course, it would be much. You know, I'm going to enemy territory, and just to win at enemy territory for me is kind of important. You know, it's just like I'm going out to represent my city, represent my country. So just that alone is just kind of important to me. And then just to win over Riley, if I do, it's like I know that will put me in a good position. You know, so that's just adding the fuel to train harder and everything like that. So I'm just really, really, really focused on this fight, and we'll just go mental in there.
One final question for you, Alexander, and it's basically this. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to MMA, so I've known about you for quite some time, but I don't expect other people outside of Sweden to really know a whole lot about you. The rest of Europe, they're probably going to see you compete for the very first time. And you could also say that for the rest of the world that are watching it, you fight on UFC Fight Pass. What are a couple things that the rest of Europe, the rest of the world needs to know about Alexander Loof before you get ready to fight this guy?
The things they can expect and know about me is like I have good entrances, funny to watch. Maybe not as good as Harila, but it's still like fun entrances, good entrances. I have scoliosis, so if you have scoliosis, you know the pain in the back and everything. So I'm representing the scoliosis team, kinda, and yeah, I'm striker. Like to see blood, like to have blood in the fights. I really, all my fights, I want to have it like in a movie. You know? If you watch like the movie Warriors or something, I kind of want to have that mentality in every fight. You know, I try to make it as a good movie as possible. Our coach always says like, "You're the head person in the movie," and I always like think about that. So I I want to have these kind of movie fights. So watch out for the scary movie.
On September 29th, my guest fighting Luke Riley at Cage Warriors 160. You're going to definitely want to tune in for that one. I'm pretty sure we're going to see quite a show. Alexander, I want to give you an opportunity before I let you go this afternoon. If there's anyone that you would like to thank, sir, or any sponsors that you would like to talk about, let's do it.
Yeah, I want to thank all my sponsors, especially Jörgen Fleckerud. He's done so much for me and everybody else, Waffelbar and Imperio. Yeah, now I can't think about everybody, but they still every sponsor, of course. Thank you, everybody who wrote to me and believed in me for this fight and talks to me and everything. Big thank you. Yeah, let's fucking go.
Let's
September 29th.
let's fucking go, Alexander. I appreciate your time today, sir, and I look forward to having you back on the show very soon, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.